I am waiting for the weird robots. Why are we trying to make human hands? Let's do weird things.
Jennifer, coffee, tea, or something else? What fuels your mornings?
A whole French press of coffee that
Yeah.
I debate making a second one before noon. And some days I'm good and don't, but most days, yeah, I forget water and only drink coffee.
I guess there's water in coffee, right? Technically.
That's what I'm thinking. It just seems more efficient.
Right?
Yeah.
When you were a kid, what did you think you'd be when you grow up?
That's such an interesting question because I don't know if I had a firm idea of what any job really was as a kid. Both my parents were government workers, so I was kind of just like, you work in an office and you do different things. Or
Yeah.
and then like firefighter or hockey player. I think hockey player was a big one for a while.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I
Did you
think
play
I did play.
competitively?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played competitively until like 16. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, super fun and super excited about PWHL women's hockey popping off right now, especially in Montreal. It's got my jersey
Yeah.
on the wall behind me, so it's like
Love
an
that.
exciting time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot of steam right now.
Yeah.
Um, what's one technology that you can't live without?
I think recently it's my robot vacuum. I think now that I have clean floors, I simply cannot go back, and I'm embarrassed about how disgusting I was before. And I'm excited to get a robot mop when the
Yeah.
paychecks come in a little more frequently.
That's a you'd be surprised. That is a first on this show.
Really, I am
Yes.
surprised. I think
So
anything
am
that
I,
makes my
actually.
domestic tasks easier is just like it's imperative for me. I love having a cozy, clean home, and I don't want to
Yeah.
vacuum.
Who does, to be
Who
fair?
does?
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could fast forward 10 years and see one impact that your work's made on the world, what would you want that to be?
I think I would want to have an impact on the accessibility and safety of technology. I think there is a huge push in the tech space right now to innovate and move fast. And it means that it's really only accessible to the people who are working with it every day. And I would love to be able to make technologies that, people who are doing other things with their time other than kind of like being up to date with the latest LLM models or whatever, can actually kind of deploy in their, in their coffee shop, right? Like if they want to have AI that can detect, or like that is able to manage their inventory and roast their coffee beans to the right temperatures and things like that, things that can help small businesses, small communities, um, that would be really meaningful to me to bring technology, innovative technology to everyone.
Yeah, that's powerful. Love that. Well, welcome to Machine Minds, everyone. I'm your host, Greg Terusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Jennifer Kwiatkowski. I said it right, right?
Yeah, nailed it.
Yes. She's a AI specialist at Robotiq. Thanks for being on the show today, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. This is very fun.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm very happy that I nailed that intro because I was sweating over here about that.
Well, you didn't look it. It was very professional.
Thank you. All right, let's jump into it. So, first, can you take us back? I'd really love to hear about how you found your way into the world of robotics, automation, and AI.
Yeah, I think I kind of just stumbled into it a little bit. I've always been very good at the sciences and maths in school, and kind of actually didn't really know what engineering was until I took a class in college that was like physics for engineers and was like, oh, your day-to-day is building stuff. Like, it's not just kind of, because I think a lot of kids have a misconception that like scientist means like cutting edge research in the lab inventing new things, and then it's like, oh, the engineers are the ones that take that and make it work in the real world. And that was a really powerful moment for me of just being like, oh, I can do things in the real world with all of these weird math formulas that I'm learning. And so that kind of pushed me into engineering. And again, this want to have the theories interact with the world in a real way to kind of put me into mechanical engineering. And the school that I went to, which was McGill University, it's a mechanical engineering program, is basically a funnel to the aerospace industry. So ended up kind of on that path, which was very cool. Airplane engines are super, super interesting. Explosions making jets go, like, awesome. But just working in that industry really wasn't a good fit for me. So looking at alternatives, I'd always had an interest in robotics, but zero experience in it. And I had a buddy doing a master's at a university in my city in Montreal. And he's like, yeah, I just play with robots all day. It's super awesome. Come check it out. So he gave me a lab visit. I did some research on the different professors and what they were looking at, and found my supervisor. And yeah, 10 years later, I am deep into the robotics and AI, and particularly kind of manipulation using tactile sensors was what my research was on. And that's kind of where I've landed at Robotic, is continuing that journey. And I think, again, it just comes from this interest of taking physics, taking mathematical principles, and having them work in the real world to something that you can see is immensely satisfying to me. And the multidisciplinary environment of robotics, where it's like you start from mechanical and then you have to add the electrical and then you're building up the software, you're learning something new every day, and it's super fun and delightful.
I love that. What drew you specifically to applied technology rather than purely academic or theoretical works? Obviously, you came from the research world, right? That's what you mentioned. And sometimes people either I don't want to say get caught in, but they just love research so much, and whether they want to join a research lab or stay in academia instead of the complexities and other incentives from the applied and commercial world.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think specifically in the robotic space, because the line between the two is really blurred. I think the pace at which robotics research and innovation is happening means that there is like quite a tight integration between robotics academic research and what companies are coming out with right now. So I think I haven't had to really engage with that too much in myself yet, because it's felt like my academic research is now just with different constraints, right? The formulation isn't, what is the impact of this model on this technology? It is, does this model improve the outputs for this customer's needs? And I think I'm still feeling I'm able to apply the same level of curiosity and research in a lot of my technical work right now, but it's just with a better paycheck and stability. So for me, I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
that
this is
makes a
great.
ton of sense.
Yeah. And I think this
Yeah.
is, it's something probably a bit unique to the robotics industry, and specifically right now when everything is accelerating so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in time, or maybe it was a project or anything like that, that really shaped how you think about building technology for real users?
Yeah. One of my kind of elements of my PhD research was trying to make an automated pick and place system purely to collect data. And
Okay.
it took me so long just stringing all of these elements together and just realizing how difficult it is to make a robotic system that is adaptable to, like, I want to pick up a ball, and if the ball is 3 centimeters away, how can I have something that can do that over, 1,000 grasps without me having to be there constantly monitoring and checking and resetting? And just that process really gave me such a deep appreciation of how complex these systems are and how fragile they are.
Yeah.
And it's what we are seeing now with this hype cycle of physical AI is this data barrier. So I feel very validated in my struggles.
That's
And I
awesome.
think the lessons in that, like, really uh, keeping things simple and not trying to take all of the data that you want just because you can, because later you're going to go, you know what, this data actually isn't representative of anything else other than what I was doing at the time. So why the hell did I spend 4 weeks adding a camera to this when I really don't care about the camera data?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good learnings and good call outs, right? For people building right now,
Yeah.
being mindful of that. So let's shift gears because I really want to dive into Robotic and everything that you guys are doing. So for listeners who may not know the company well, what do you guys do and who are your core customers?
So Robotic is a end of arm tooling company for collaborative robots. So Robotic has been around for 17 years. We were kind of very much a part of the rise of collaborative robots, especially with Universal Robots. We were very tightly integrated with them, and Universal was one of the leading collaborative robotic arms distributors in the world. And so our main products are our grippers. So the Robotic two-finger gripper with the adaptive fingers is an icon. I want to say an iconic product. Most research labs have used it. Most companies have one kicking around somewhere. Have tested. It's a super reliable two-finger gripper that can also have fingers that are underactuated and kind of like encapsulate objects to make the grasp more stable. So you have this adaptable hardware, which is unique in kind of that space. So our historical core customers have been manufacturers who are using collaborative robots. So yeah, companies, small and medium enterprises who don't have the capital to create these large scale assembly lines that you see the car companies having, but still want to have automation, which was kind of this rise of the collaborative robots and continues to kind of expand with physical AI and humanoids. And that those continue to be the core customers is everyone who wants to have flexible automation. So the kind of core products are the grippers. We also have force torque sensors in the wrists. And we're just releasing some tactile sensors as well. They're coming out this
Awesome.
month. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, from knowing the problems in this space and the opportunities for improvement, it seems like you're working on all the right areas that are needed. Are these like problems that the customers are actually coming to you with and saying, "Hey, how can you help us solve these?" Or they know what you provide and they're saying, "How can we implement these in our systems?"
It's a little bit of both. We have kind of a wide range of clientele, some who are doing very, very application specific, sorry, specific applications that require very specific software constraints or hardware constraints. And we do have a history of working very closely with our customers and um, either adapting solutions to their needs or developing new products if we're seeing like, hey, the market, like the tactile sensors, it was like, hey, we're getting market signals that this is a need and we actually have this technology in our back pocket. So like,
Yeah.
let's productize it, but let's productize it with the lessons we've learned from all of our industrial customers of there needs to be a certain level of integration and ease of use and software support. And I think all of these lessons of robotics and integrating robotics needs a certain level of plug and play and a certain level of robustness are really
Yeah.
kind of the core areas that we try to address, because that has been traditionally the need of not every customer has a software engineer or a
Mm-hmm.
roboticist that
Mm-hmm.
can,
Yeah.
install Linux and ROS to run your system. So yeah, just being tightly in connection with the clients and understanding their needs and trying to make sure that we're able to hit them all is been a big part of the Robotic. development.
I mean, that seems super. It seems like a no-brainer, obviously, the way that you're working, but not everyone works that way. Do you think that there's a difference with what people think robotics companies work on or how they work with their customers compared to what you actually do or the way that you actually work? Because, buying something off the shelf and just going and like you're saying, is tough if you don't have the people there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a statistic that really kind of helps cover my answer for this is that 50 to 80% of the cost of automating an application is the integration. Like, it's not the hardware, it's the integration, it's the software development, it's the conveyors, it's the safety encasing. All of those things are the real challenge. So if you are like, hey, I want to have a palletizer system working in my
Yeah.
warehouse, the actual robot isn't really the challenge, but I think that's what people like, oh, you design the robot and the robot's going to be so good. And it's like, no, the robot is the easy part. It's all of the planning, the repeatability, the calibration, and then the sensing, and all of that is super difficult. So if you talk to robotic integrators, like, they might spend 3 or 4 days like just manually planning robotic paths for an application for a specific customer, for their specific space, for their specific robotic cell. And yeah, and I think what's interesting right now is the way AI is developing in physical AI is that gap is maybe going to close between what roboticists are actually doing, which is struggling with data and trying to make things repeatable and stuff, and what people expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, last question on this before I want to jump onto more of the product side, but what does success look like for customers after they deploy your solutions?
ROI as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because especially with these kind of manufacturers, that's their main goal is ROI within 8 to 16 months, and ideally continuing value and surprise value, so that the
Yeah.
more your whole system's efficiency increases, just the better. But yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, that makes sense. Robotics, especially today, you mentioned this time in robotics, like there's so much going on. It's exciting. There's a bunch of products coming out in companies and all of that. But also there's like this bad rap, I guess, some companies are giving the space because they often look amazing in demos, right? That's
Yeah.
the big PR marketing push. But what do you think separates systems that get deployed long term from ones that don't? And they're just like the shiny new thing.
Yeah. I have strong opinions on this.
Great.
I think the companies that focus on specific applications and build vertically into that application are the ones who are going to have long-term success. And what we're seeing now is a lot of demos of like, oh, we're going to have these generalizable uh, foundational models or robotic systems that can do everything. And it's like, one day, absolutely, we will probably get there. But if we're talking about the capabilities of these systems right now, the companies that say, hey, I'm going to have a form factor that I think is going to be useful in the long run, but I'm going to make that form factor work in this specific application, and I'm going to work tightly with my customers to find all of the kinks and make a product that works at the rate that industry needs, which is a 99.9% reliability. I think coming from the AI space where you're just like, oh yeah, like I have an 80% success rate. That's amazing. It's like, if you're putting it on real hardware and that hardware's around people, like, you can't have that. Like a point that I heard recently that I think is really important is like, if you need a human to supervise your robot, you haven't automated anything, right? You still
Mhm.
have to hire a person.
Yeah.
So the people who focus on getting that operational level of safety, of repeatability, of reliability, which I think really only happens if a company stays focused, at least at the beginning. I think that's where we're going to have these differences between these shiny hype demos and real usable products.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big topic of discussion. We're seeing so much, again, the demos and the great marketing push of general purpose humanoids, etc. Which, don't get me wrong, I believe that they will come at some point, but when you're trying to build a product for industry or for a need, and when you're asking for investment, and unless your investors have very deep pockets and don't care about any returns in the short term or anything like that, or if you're being pushed for revenue, and a lot of VCs right now, they're asking unit economics, and when are you going to start generating revenue and profitability, etc. It's hard to do that with these very long-term projects that a lot of the time you're inventing new technology and hardware as well to make it worthwhile, or to make it even usable. And then you think about that uptime. The uptime isn't there, the safety isn't there, all of that. So I don't know. It's coming for sure, but there's so many other routes to successful businesses and successful products than that.
No, I 100% agree. It's yeah.
Yeah. How much of robotic success do you think is technical versus operational or organizational on the customer side?
That's sorry, when you were beginning to answer the question, I thought you were talking about Robotiq, and I was like, oh, all of them. But on the customer side, this is a different question.
Because to your point about, like them, if they don't have a software engineer on staff, or they don't have an infrastructure person, is that more of the bottleneck? Or if their organization isn't structured right to have a successful adoption of a robotic platform or product?
Yeah, no, I think those are all huge factors in how easily robotics can be adopted into a certain organization. And I think it comes down to a mismatching of expectations or alignment of expectations. So if a integrator or a robotics company is selling you a product and you think it does one thing and it actually does another, then I think organizationally, it doesn't matter kind of how many software developers you have. It's just, I think you're going to fail at every level, right?
Yeah.
That said, and actually, I have a fun example of that. I was at CES 2 years ago with my old startup that I was working at, and I had a guy come up to our booth. We were doing path planning software for robotics, and he's like, I bought 400 robotic arms, and my software engineers can't get it to do the things that I want it to do. Like, do you have a product for me so that they do that? And that's not the first time that I've also worked for. I worked for a bank that bought a robotic arm that they wanted to do software testing on ATMs to like push all the buttons when they did QA. And the company sold them a robot where the workspace was not in front of the robot. It was a medical assist robot where the workspace is supposed to be mounted um, on a wheelchair and work in this space and not the in front space.
Yeah.
So if you have these mismatches of expectations, and a lot of people don't have experience with robotics, so it's really easy to not have the right expectation going in about what this technology can do, if it's a right fit. That's where it doesn't matter if your organization's in line, your operation is ready to go, you have the software team, the tech team ready. If you are sold the wrong thing, it's just not going to work. You're going to get so frustrated, you're going to waste so much time, and you're going to lose kind of your chance as an organization to adopt automation. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
one of the pieces of advice I've heard a lot from integrators is don't try to automate the thing that gives you the biggest ROI. Automate the thing that's easiest to automate, because you do have to plan for this learning curve. You do have to plan for your organization adopting and absorbing this new technology in. So, um, again, going back to kind of the lessons I learned before, keeping things simple
Yeah.
goes a long way, and managing expectations. I think also from company side, like making sure your clients don't come back in 3 months being like, "Hey, you promised me this," and then your
Yeah.
whole support system gets bottled up with angry complaints. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want that. You
you
definitely
don't
don't
want
want
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What feedback from customers has most influenced how your products have evolved, or even what you've actually worked on to produce for them?
Yeah. So I don't have the most visibility on that because I have done a lot of work with the Robotic products, but I've only been on the product development side more recently in my role with the tactile sensors. And
Mm, okay.
yeah, right now we are just getting a lot of feedback on like what is the specific application that they're using. And I think it's been very difficult because everyone is like, we want to use it for everything, or um, sign an NDA and we'll tell you. And we're like, okay, but like, do you like what is the precision you need, the accuracy you need? So I think it's just knowing the application and the needs of the applications really help drive the product and find the right product fit.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Where this is kind of like a bigger question, overarching, but where did you think that teams tend to underestimate complexity when they're moving from that, maybe it's initial pilot phase, actually to scaling? It could be with one company or just their product in general.
Yeah, supply and support.
But yeah,
Yeah,
supply
so
of the actual product, like having it on hand to sell, or what?
yeah, and managing when you're selling hardware, what is the capacity of your suppliers for your components? Are you able to kind of align all of your different orders at the right time and then get it to your whoever is packaging and whatever? Like, there is a bottleneck in that. And if
Yeah.
you have your sales team selling a bunch that you can't actually deliver, um yeah, supply becomes a challenge.
Mm.
And then support also. So the more you're scaling, the more people will need help, need maintenance, whatever. Is your team equipped to have support for your products? And that's something that I'm kind of learning as I kind of grow in this role at Robotic is from day one, it's okay, who is handling the support calls on? So Tactile Sensors is a very new project. It's um, we're targeting very specific people to help us with the development of it, and it's like, okay, like, who is the support? What kind of things are we going to be offering people in order to not overwhelm our teams with calls of like, hey, you promised me this and it's not doing that? So
Yeah.
um, it's something that can very easily get out of hand when you scale.
Yeah. I think easier said than done sometimes. People completely overlook it,
Yeah.
right? In your work, how do you think about AI as part of the broader robotic system rather than the star of the show?
Yeah, I
Or
kind
do
of
you?
I don't think I do think of AI as the star of the show. um I think AI is a an exploratory tool, maybe more than the star of the show. Like, I think AI is a way to very not very quickly, but to learn about the limitations of a system as
Mm,
you iterate towards more robust control algorithms or other algorithms. And I think that maybe that's an opinion I had historically, and now the increase of these like video language action models and
yeah.
these other really interesting deployments of AI. I think my opinion is changing a little bit, but I think robotics has historically done pretty good without AI, and AI can kind of build and add, but um, robotics is a combination of hardware, electronics, and software, and AI is kind of another element into this giant stack of things that are to consider. So super helpful,
Yeah.
super important, but not a necessity, I suppose.
When do you think adding AI is meaningfully is helpful, and when does it just add complexity for no reason?
Yeah, I think the moment that you have an unstructured environment. So
Really?
yeah, so anytime now that you are not, you know, fixing everything that you're trying to automate, that's when AI can be extremely powerful. Even, you know, having a good object tracking algorithm to make sure that no one is entering the space where the robot is moving, and sending a command to the robot, be like, hey, slow
Yeah.
down, there's a person here. Um, all of
Interesting.
those things are really amplified with AI. So
Yeah.
the moment you can't nail everything down, that's when AI really does shine.
Is that kind of how you would evaluate if a feature is truly improving outcomes for a user or the product versus just like, hey, it sounds good? The reason I ask this is there's a lot of this right now in the startup space where maybe it's complexity just for complexity reasons, or sounding cool and sexy, or other people are using it and you're like, oh, they're raising lots of money, or customers are looking into that because it's got this buzzword. But what do you think about that? Like, how do you evaluate it being truly improving that outcome compared to just being sexy on paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when you're saying that look good on paper, I'm flashing to an investor being like, can we put Gen AI on the robot? And me just being like,
Yeah, 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 exactly.
but I think it really, it's what's the outcome that is important to you, right? So if what you need is faster cycle time, is AI going to be better than designing your robotic cell to optimize that cycle time and fixing everything, and just having, like, you have an infeed, your piece is going to be the exact same place every time, and you have, like, again, like traditional automation, right? Like the car manufacturing assembly lines, incredibly efficient, incredible cycle time. You can't really beat that, even if you use AI. Like, what is AI going to improve on that metric? So again, it comes down to what applications that you can now unlock with AI. So again, this idea of using robots in unstructured environments where, okay, I have a warehouse that is constantly changing. I cannot afford to fix everything because maybe my product cycle is very, very fast, right? I'm going to be having a new product every month or 2 months, so I can't fix my automation to accommodate that. So that's when AI comes really powerful, and it's way easier to use your robot to adapt it to a changing environment, or even just set it up. Any kind of moment that you have to change a robotic system, it's very annoying and very complex, and that is where AI can have a lot of benefits.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
again,
that
it's
makes a lot of sense.
what is the value that you need to improve, and it's not always something that AI will be the best choice for.
True. Yeah, it's true. I think you really have to understand the problem set in the industry that you're working in, and what is, like you said, what's most important to the outcome, and then how will this help? Yeah, yeah, it's not silver bullet for sure.
No, no. As much as we like to think it will be, and maybe one day it will be.
For
Not
sure.
to say
Yeah,
that we can't get there. But I think there's a lot of tools and work and people who are very competent at doing a lot of things without AI in this space.
yeah,
And I think sometimes we forget, and we reinvent the wheel a little bit on things.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Very true. Let's shift gears because I'd love to talk about teams and talent and all of that good stuff, especially for companies like yourself. So, robotics companies, they bring together, as you mentioned, you've got hardware side, software, product, etc. And customer success is super important when you're deploying. What makes those teams work well together, in your opinion?
So I think trust, right? Like trusting that your colleagues are competent, that they will communicate when things need to be communicated, that it's okay if they make mistakes, and we can all work together to solve a problem rather than, blaming something, because yeah, these are complicated systems and we're all just humans. But if we're all aligned in the same goal and can trust each other to work, like I think that's what makes a really powerful team and organization, um, compared to one where maybe there are bottlenecks of there is one person who's in charge of everything and has to sign off on everything. It just slows everything down, and I think would be very
Yeah,
difficult in a robotic space to have a team like that.
for sure. You see that a lot with early stage companies where it's like a single founder, CEO, that everything comes through, that maybe they're technical as well. So you've got
Yeah.
the product vision, company vision, raising money, and everything goes through them. And it hits a point sometimes sooner rather than later, which is probably better, where they realize, you know what, other people need to make these decisions. They need to be empowered. I can't be the bottleneck for all of this. Um, and then the ones that don't do that sooner rather than later have a very challenging path forward. Um, what traits do you see in people who thrive in robotics companies outside of the trust side of things that I think has to be earned and instilled in the company?
Yeah. I think curiosity. I think you need a natural curiosity about these technologies and how they're used as well. So I think it can't just be a like, ooh, I am excited to try out this new hardware, but it's like, ooh, like I wonder if like my client is going to like this. Like, is this actually going to,
Yeah,
what is the end result? And am I interested in solving that for them? And like, how do these things impact it? Because again, like robotics is a multidisciplinary, huge, complex beast. And if you're not curious to continue learning and see different aspects and different elements of it, um, I think it would be very overwhelming. I think you
yeah.
have to be like being a little bit overwhelmed, maybe. That's to put it another way.
Yeah, you perform in overwhelm.
Yeah,
Just put that on a job
exactly,
description.
exactly. Just like a
Yeah,
little bit of panic at all times,
yeah.
but in a good way. Yeah.
What about where do you think teams struggle the most when they're scaling from that early stage to more mature operations?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had my own personal experience was in either very, very tiny companies or now this kind of like middle
Yeah,
stage. But I think just uh hiring the right talent at the right time, especially if you're an early stage startup, you only have so much runway, and being very sure that you know what the challenges you're going to face in that runway period and getting the right person onto that. And then also and then setting that organization of how to keep everyone aligned. So one of the things I really like at Robotiq is they operate under the OKR principle, so objectives and key results. And I really love that organization because I find that it's like, okay, you have your execs that are setting the objectives for the company, and they set the key results that you, as the employees and the different groups, are going to create the actions to hit those key results. And so you measure your key results at, say, a 6 month interval, and you say, I took these actions, I've made this key result. It can be like, I want to increase sales in Europe by 15%. Okay, like what would be the actions I should take to try to do that? If in 6 months you have failed, it's not that you are a failure. It's just, okay, these actions were not the correct actions. So let's try something new. And I think it gives teams flexibility to operate autonomously, which I think allows an organization to scale very nicely when you've set up this organization of like, you still have this alignment coming from the top, but it's not micromanaged all the way down. It's just, hey,
yeah,
this is what we're trying to do, and here's how we're going to measure it. So try things, and then you have feedback. We tried this thing, it actually didn't work. So let's iterate. Let's try again. So, um, yeah, I've really liked operating in that framework, and I think it's something like that where you can have alignment without the need for so much oversight is vital for scaling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You're right. Um, how important is customer empathy for engineers and the specialists in the space?
I love that question. I don't think I've ever heard someone refer to yeah, customer empathy. I very much like that. I think it's extremely important. I think you're allowed to be annoyed that your customer isn't using your product right.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, they are the ones using it, and so you do have to address whatever their issues are.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a okay. This is I'm dwelling on it a little bit more, and there's a balance between customer empathy is always good, but the customer isn't always right.
Mm, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay, tell me more.
Because I think there again this idea of setting the correct expectations. If a customer is like, I want to automate this thing, I'm going to buy this product to do it, they might not be correct. Like, they might not be choosing the correct product. There might be a different thing in your tool, or honestly, a different product from a different company that is a better fit for what they're doing. And being able to gently guide conversations and educate, um, I think is very important as a business. And I think that comes from a place of empathy, of just like, yeah, like, I understand you're struggling. I understand what your needs are, and I want to better understand your needs. Um, but maybe have you thought about this? And a great example I can give right now is we've been in talks with a company that want to buy our force torque sensors. So they're kind of a middleman. They're kind of saying, oh, our client has these needs. They want a force torque sensor that gives an absolute force reading, and that it's very accurate. And so our force sensor is really, really good at giving a relative force reading. And the fun thing about that means is that you don't have to recalibrate it. So you don't have to take your part in to get it serviced, to get it recalibrated every 6 months. So for an industrial application, I can take my force torque sensor, I can zero it, and now I can do my task, because I'm looking more at the relative force. How much do I need to push to insert this press fit thing in?
Mm,
So it's like, oh, I empathize with this customer. They need a reliable force sensing, but maybe they're not understanding exactly what their actual need is from a technical perspective. And I think that's a very tricky balance to kind of educate and understand. Um, yeah, in this space.
yeah, that makes sense. Let's zoom out a little bit before we get to the end of this episode, which has been awesome getting your perspective, by the way.
Thanks.
I love to hear your opinion and your viewpoint on the broader robotics space and where you think we are in the robotics adoption curve right now as an industry.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's kind of we're there was the collaborative robotics hype cycle that we are now
Hmm.
kind of over the hype cycle after the slump, and we're on that kind of stable curve. And then I think what's not clear for me is, are we in a totally separate hype cycle that is humanoid robots, or are we on kind of a second general robotics hype cycle? Because I think for humanoids, we are at the top of that hype cycle.
Yeah.
But I think robotics in general, like, there has been kind of this increase of robotics adoption over the last many years. And so the traditional the older robotics companies, they're seeing like a nice boom that I don't think is going to necessarily crash in the same way that I think the humanoid space might have a bit of a bigger crash.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Interesting.
it's for me,
Interesting.
it feels a little more nuanced. But I think, yeah, The humanoids, I'd be concerned.
Time will tell for sure.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which industries or use cases do you think feel genuinely ready for scale, and which others probably need more foundational work?
I think e-commerce and logistics, so order fulfillment. Yeah, that's mixed SKU case packing, so mixed item case packing is very, very difficult. It's traditionally been like a very hard problem to solve. So like Amazon's still hiring people to do that order fulfillment, right? Um, but Amazon is very much a huge case, hundreds of thousands of objects in every warehouse. But on a smaller scale, like automation in order fulfillment, I think is really primed to have some really powerful products coming out
Yeah.
very soon. And I think it's even with these humanoid form factors, it's like that's a great use case of just packing stuff in boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. What's one thing that you think that the robotics industry needs to do better over the next few years?
Hmm. This one,
Good one, huh?
give me
Yeah,
give me
it's
a
a good
second to
one.
think about.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the things I have concerns about in the short term are safety and privacy.
Mm, great. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's necessarily a call to action, but I think as we move robots into more and more spaces uh, that are unconstrained and people are around them, these ideas of how safe is this robot and like how are we guaranteeing the privacy of the people around these robots, and how do companies think about that, and are they thinking about it?
Yeah.
Like where is that video data going? Is it staying internally on a server at your warehouse? Is it streaming to the cloud? And if so, then who's that data going to? So
Right.
those are the questions as we have these AI enabled robots being deployed more and more. Um, I think those are questions that we should be starting to answer and ask now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one. I do like, yeah, safety is definitely top of mind for me. As you're seeing these ones, there's a big push for consumer and in-home and
Yeah.
elderly homes and all of this stuff. And yeah, I think safety is a huge one, but privacy is as as big. Because you saw with the 1X robot as well, where they're deploying and they're saying, people teleoperate. And I guess they have technology that is auto blurring faces or people and stuff like that. But again, to your point, where is this going? Who has
Yeah.
access? I think all of that needs to be openly and clearly addressed and led with, instead of people having questions about it up front.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
I guess my call to action is for governments and regulators to not kind of sit on their heels on these things and kind of be engaged with these companies and saying, hey, like
yeah,
what are the ways to have regulations to make sure that people trust, like that's the point of regulations, is that people can trust the things they're buying. And if there are clear rules around privacy and how it's managed so like ISO safety certifications for humanoids is I think they just released kind of the first version of that, which are things that it makes it a lot easier for companies to be able to develop their products and know that they're going to be okay down the line, right? They don't want to get a lawsuit in
yeah,
3 years because they didn't hit a certain safety standard. So yeah, there needs to be clarity at all levels of from all sides of the ecosystem of how to keep people safe.
sure. Okay, we are almost at time, but I really want to hear about what excites you most about staying in this space.
um I am waiting for the weird robots. Honestly,
The weird ones.
I'm waiting for the weird ones. Okay, the one
Yeah.
I'm
What's
actually
a weird
excited
one?
for.
Yeah.
Okay. There's this researcher named Aude Billiard. She's you know what, I'm gonna mess up the country if I try to remember where she's from. But
Okay.
iconic researcher in the manipulation space, and she gave this talk a few years ago about like, why are we trying to make human hands? Like, that's stupid. Let's do weird things. Like, let's see what form factors are actually most efficient and useful for what we want robots to do. And so I'm really excited to, if that is something that gets adopted by more and more companies, when they realize that certain form factors actually aren't the best. So like legs, are legs the best form factor for humanoid
Mm,
robots?
yeah.
Or are we going to get like weird wheels with spikes on them to go upstairs? Uh, it's kind of like when we had all the flip phones that are flipping in all different ways in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. I'm like, I'm waiting for that moment in robotics where people get kind of wild with
Yeah.
on the hardware side. I think that'll be really fun.
I'm excited for that too now as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. No, I was at a conference. I can't remember who said it, but they were talking about humanoids and stuff. And I think the one argument for humanoids as well, we're creating robots to work in a world that was designed for humans. So the form factor, like it's like, okay, cool. But they were saying, well, humans, we aren't the most efficient at things anyway, to that point, right? Like, why are we having a hand? Like, we should have a variety of special end effectors that sit on this robot that they can swap out as and when they need to for what task. And then, yeah, legs don't really make sense for most things, stability, and there was a whole other thing. And I was like, oh, right. And why are we limited to 2 arms? You know, why don't we have 4? Do you need a
Exactly.
head? You know? So I'm like, yeah, it's true. So yeah, I'm sure there's some of that being worked on right now. I'm excited to see what comes out.
Yeah, same.
Oh. Well, look, thank you so much for being on the show today, Jen. I really appreciate it. This was an awesome conversation. So thank you. How can our listeners learn more about you and Robotic and everything that you guys have going on?
Yeah, so you can go to our website to get a look at our products. We have a number of different sales representatives and distributors across the world. So if you're looking into robotics automation, contact your local robotics integrator and see if they're one of our partners, and get that conversation going. Also, we're very active on LinkedIn, so you can check out me and Robotic on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, well, we'll put all of those links in the show notes so people can find you guys easily. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch and seeing everything that you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. This was very fun.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.